Well, well, well. The more things change, the more they stay the same in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. You already know what it is. You already know where you have reached the number one professional wrestling podcast anywhere in the world. This is the up and coming brand known as Hubbard Wrestling Weekly, and this is HUBBanomics. On a Thursday afternoon, took the day off work, wanted to give you guys some bonus content, and I definitely am happy that I could bring you guys an episode of HUBBanomics on a traditional Thursday, but just a little bit earlier in the afternoon. I know we're going to have either a late arriving audience or people that are going to see the show later this afternoon or this evening. That's no problem. Big shout out to Clown being in the building. Appreciate you being here, Clown. Big shout out also to Justine being here. Appreciate you guys for being with me on a Thursday afternoon. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you guys very much. As more people come in, we'll be happy to greet them as well. Once again, this is HUBBanomics on Hubbard Wrestling Weekly on YouTube. Make sure you check out Hubbard Wrestling Weekly on the internet. Make sure you go to hwweekly.com, go to the Threadless merchandise shop and all that good stuff, man. And as always, make sure you check out Clash of the Podcast each and every Monday night, 6:05 Eastern Standard Time, with myself and co-host and co-founder, the one and only Conrad Cushman. So with that being said, man, let's jump right into this, man. I started off the show by saying the following, which is the more things change, the more they stay the same. I am making reference to the more than likely writing on the wall, pretty much lock it in, official reunion of the team that I consider to be the greatest tag team in the history of WWE. I'm talking about the Usos. There's no question that when you think about the greatest tag team, not only in WWE, but in the history of wrestling, Demolition, the Hart Foundation, the Horsemen, there are so many others. The Fabulous Freebirds. The list goes on and on and on. The Usos have to be considered one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And in my opinion, if I were to list them, and that list is coming pretty soon, guys, so make sure you take a watch out for that coming up on hwweekly.com in the coming months. I do list them as the greatest tag team of all time. My question, though, is this really the way to go? And I'm not saying that because I don't love the Usos. Everybody loves the Usos. But this guy, he is notorious for taking easy ways out when it comes to booking. Do I think he's made all bad decisions? I don't. Do I think that Triple H has made bad decisions in his entire time running the company? I don't. And the book, I don't. But there are some things that leave a lot to be desired, man. There's some things that he's done. There's some moves that he's made that have been very controversial and honestly very off-putting as it relates to the world of professional wrestling. That list includes the floundering of Damage Control, the unnecessary heel turn of the New Day, and honestly, the elephant in the room, the horrible presentation of WrestleMania in 2025 earlier this year. However, I will say this. When it comes to Triple H, he does have potential. It's funny we're talking about a 50-plus-year-old man having potential, but as it relates to his Booker abilities, he has potential, but he definitely has a lot to improve upon. And I'm going to continue being critical of him and the WWE product for as long as I have to until changes are made. There's no shame in my game. I love professional wrestling. Part of professional wrestling is being able to acknowledge that WWE is the greatest and biggest company in the world today and probably all time. But when I watch AEW puts on a tremendous product. In-ring, out of the ring needs to improve a little bit, but in-ring is the best product in the world today, in the world of professional wrestling. WWE does not bring that to the table. It brings entertainment, and it brings that value when it comes to what you're watching on TV. But the price points have gone up. We all know about the new ESPN deal. We all know about how you have to pay for Netflix, pay for ESPN. You're going to have to pay wherever the library ends up if it doesn't end up on Netflix or Peacock. Or excuse me, it's leaving Peacock if it doesn't end up on Netflix or the entire library ended up on YouTube or maybe ESPN, we're gonna have to pay double, triple if somebody like is out there like me that truly really appreciates the old school library. But I digress. So here's the situation, guys. Now that the writing is on the wall, I want to talk to you guys about some things that have gone on in the world of professional wrestling. Now, for me, I've always talked about, especially on Clash of the Podcast recently, I've talked about the breakout star of the Usos. And I've always considered the Jey Uso to be a breakout star. Obviously, Jey Uso became the World Heavyweight Champion, and rightfully so. It took Triple H really, really a long time to get there. However, he did finally get himself together. He did finally make the right decision. Now, the title reign was not long. It left a lot to be desired as it relates to the satisfaction I got of seeing Jey Uso as champion. He was only champion for a couple of months. But as I always say, resumes matter, and resumes do create legacies. So because Jey Uso is now a former Intercontinental Champion, now a former World Heavyweight Champion, and is one half of the longest reigning tag team champions in the history of the business, I can sleep well at night knowing that my guy Jey Uso did get his flowers. Sami Zayn has gotten his flowers. Sami Zayn is a multiple-time Intercontinental Champion. He is the new and current United States Heavyweight Champion. The man he took the title from is the former United States Champion, another former Bloodline member, Solo Sikoa. It seems like everybody's had their chance to shine in WWE, in the Bloodline, as it relates to them branching off to their own things. Obviously, you know that Roman Reigns is the biggest star probably in the modern era, has risen up my list of all-time greats ever into the top 10 because of how amazing he's done as an athlete and a professional wrestler. So everybody's had their moment. Everybody's had their chance to shine. Obviously, Solo Sikoa's United States Championship reign was not exactly what I would have thought to be credible. I don't think Sami Zayn should have took that title from him last week on SmackDown. But the bottom line is every member of the Bloodline has had their moment to shine. Every single one, except one guy. Jimmy Uso. I feel bad for Big Jim. I really do. I feel bad for Big Jim because Jimmy Uso, to me, is a superstar. Jimmy Uso is not just good in the ring, and he is excellent in the ring. He's good on the microphone. He's charismatic. He's funny. All the elements of WWE that create this conglomerate known as World Wrestling Entertainment, Jimmy Uso checks all the boxes. I mentioned on Clash of the Podcast, and I wanted to bring this up today to kind of double up on my point, that Jimmy Uso was the first person to stand up to Roman Reigns. No, it wasn't, Sean. It was Sami Zayn at the Royal Rumble. And then Jey Uso later on. No. The very first person to stand up to Roman Reigns during the Bloodline era was Jimmy Uso. When Jey Uso was the right-hand man, as you can see right here, talking to Roman Reigns, getting instruction from Roman Reigns, being disrespected from a storyline perspective by Roman Reigns, it was Jimmy Uso who stood up to Roman Reigns. It was Jimmy Uso who was the very first person to challenge Roman Reigns' authority in the Bloodline. He was saying that he's going to be nobody's bitch. He's nobody's right-hand man. He respected his brother, Jey Uso, but Jimmy always wanted Jey to see the light and realize that Roman Reigns was just using him. So from a storyline perspective, when I say that Jimmy Uso was the person that started everything, it was Jimmy Uso. And I have factual background to back that up. So when you fast forward all these years and you see how Roman Reigns has become the biggest star of the modern era, when you see how Sami Zayn has multiple championships, not world titles, but United States Tag Team, Intercontinental, when you see that Solo Sikoa has become a North American and United States Heavyweight Champion, when you see how Jey Uso has risen to superstardom as World Heavyweight Champion, there's one guy that gets left out in the cold, and for some reason it's been Big Jim. Now, I'm going to give you the reason why. I'm gonna give you the reason why. I don't think it should be this way. I think he deserves better, but the reason why things have gone the way they have gone is because after this epic babyface turn when he turned on Roman Reigns at Night of Champions a couple years ago, the sky was the limit for Jimmy Uso. You got to remember, Jey Uso had not yet made up his mind about Roman Reigns. He was still going back and forth. There was still some discrepancy about whether Jey Uso wanted to make the jump. Jimmy was the first person to make that jump. Jimmy was the first person to say to his brother, hey, we can do better than this. Jimmy was the guy. Just like he was the guy years earlier when he first told Roman Reigns that he was not going to be his lackey. All those years later, Jimmy showed what he was talking about. Now, in the interim, between Jimmy standing up to Roman Reigns the first time and then Jimmy eventually turning on Roman Reigns, yes, there were turns like Sami Zayn at the Royal Rumble. And to me, one of the most epic turns of all time, Jey Uso turning on Roman Reigns and choosing his brother over the tribal chief. But Jimmy Uso was the guy who started it all. Plain and simple. And nobody can tell me any different. Let's get into the chat a little bit. Appreciate you guys being here on a Thursday afternoon, man. MJB in the place to be says, what's up? What's down? Appreciate you being here, man. Clown talking about how Jimmy was the first to say yeet also. Very true. Very true. Good point, Clown. MJB says, big man Jim. Man, Big Jim is not on the forefront once Jacob and the Tongas came in. True story. And that's another guy, Jacob Fatu. And I'm not mad at it, but Jacob Fatu, a United States champion. MJB says, and he should be. I feel you. But that's where I'm at with it right now, man. All these guys have had their moment. Even Jacob Fatu, who deserves it. Let me go on record. He deserves it. But Jimmy doesn't deserve it. I was on the mountaintops talking about how Jey Uso should be world heavyweight champion. I didn't understand why it took so long to begin with. Do you guys not realize this is why I have a problem with Triple H? This is why I have a problem with this guy. Because from the time this happened in the summer of 2023, it took 2 years to get from this to this. I'm going to say that again. It took 2 years to get from this to this. And from this, meaning Jimmy Uso turning on Roman Reigns, we've never had a Jimmy Uso moment. But again, I kind of got sidetracked because I want to tell you where I think the problem took place. And the problem was, once again, WWE ridiculous booking. This is what happened. When Roman Reigns got turned on by Jey Uso, and it led to a World Heavyweight Championship match at SummerSlam, for some reason that I will never, ever understand, Jimmy Uso turned on Jey. One of the most ridiculous heel turns of all time. I want you guys to think about that. Think about the history of heel turns. Think about the history of people turning on each other. This is the most ridiculous heel turn of all time. I was there at Madison Square Garden 1 month earlier when Jimmy and Jey had just defeated Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa in that tag match at Money in the Bank. I was at the Garden that following Friday. That was a pop in Madison Square Garden that could rival The Rock. It could rival Roman Reigns. It could rival Stone Cold Steve Austin. It could rival Brett or Shawn in their prime. I don't care who you compare it to. The Usos were them. The Usos were ready to take the next level. And I'm not saying that Jey Uso should have won the world title on that particular night in August of 2023. But what I am saying is that him getting turned on by his brother made absolutely no sense. So for me, that is where the downward spiral began. Because Jey, even though it took an exceptional, ridiculous long amount of time, Jay would go on to superstardom. He would get drafted or picked up by Cody Rhodes, ironically, to come over to Raw. He left SmackDown. The Yeet movement started. He came out. The crowd was going crazy. He should have probably been world champion 6 months sooner, but eventually he won the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania and won a Intercontinental Championship along the way. Jimmy Uso faced Jay at WrestleMania, lost to Jay at WrestleMania. For some obscene, ridiculous reason, after this epic moment, once again, going back to Night of Champions, when Jimmy started this whole thing up by kicking Roman Reigns in the head, for some reason, he goes back to being aligned with Roman Reigns. There was never any explanation other than, oh, I didn't want Jay to end up being like Roman, but then he aligns himself with Roman. He gets completely lost in the shuffle when The Rock comes back to join the bloodline. He's a complete afterthought. This is the same guy that did the secret handshake with Sami Zayn. This is the same guy that had everybody going crazy, laughing and joking, having a good time. Ray in the building. Welcome to the show, my friend. He says, I would prefer Jay to stay a single star to have Jimmy for a new tag team with Solo. I think Solo would benefit big time. That would require Solo to turn babyface. I don't know if that would happen, but I would not be mad at it. I would not be mad at it. Big shout out to Ray Thompson. It does so to me, it doesn't make any sense. So this guy ends up getting lost in the shuffle because after he faced Jay at WrestleMania, what exactly did he have going on? Not much. Not much. So as we all know, like I said, Jay would go on to superstardom. Roman started his part-time schedule. Sammy's winning Intercontinental and United States Championships. Solo's winning titles in NXT. Solo won the United States Championship on the main roster. So now we fast forward. And yes, there's been moments since the OG bloodline got back together. They didn't really get back together, but they kind of got back together. And you had moments like this, like right before WrestleMania when Jay brings out Jimmy as his tag team partner. And they also tagged up again as the OG bloodline with Roman and with Sammy and with CM Punk at the Survivor Series. But is that real? Are these guys really them? I say yes. And for those listening on audio, I referenced the picture of Jay and Jimmy in 2025 compared to Jay and Jimmy back in 2023. Jay and Jimmy have it. The Usos are the greatest tag team of all time. But I'm going to bring it back to Triple H one more time. Is this a good idea or is this lazy booking? Oh, you know what? Well, we gave Jay the title. We don't really have anything for Jimmy right now. So instead of sitting up here and trying to figure out what we can do to make Jimmy's character better or put Jimmy in a better spot, let's just bring him back with his brother and have them face Braun and Braun at WrestlePalooza. By the way, that match has not been officially announced, but everybody knows that's what's going to happen. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't know if this is the best idea. I don't know if this is something that's going to resonate with the fans. Now, it's going to resonate with Uso fans like myself. But at the same time, am I disappointed? Am I disappointed a little bit that Jey Uso is still not in the World Championship picture? Now, you might say, how is he not in the World Championship picture when he just faced, CM Punk, Seth, and LA Knight in a world title match at Clash in Paris? Well, I say that because even though I'm happy Jay didn't take the pin, we all know that Jay was not going to win that match. Ray Thompson says, Jimmy should have won the U.S. title at Mania to have his moment. I get not putting a world title on him, but he deserves a singles title win. 100%, bro. 100%, Ray. I appreciate that. He deserves a singles championship. It doesn't have to be the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, do I believe, let's call a spade a spade. Do I feel like Jimmy has progressed as strongly as Jay? No. But that doesn't mean that Jimmy doesn't deserve his moment in the sun. Again, think about every member of the bloodline, including Jacob, who came along later, has won a singles championship on the main roster. Every single one. Now, I know Conrad Cushman, my tag team partner from Everything Pro Wrestling and on Clash of the Podcast, says, hey, you know what? I think at the end of the day, Sami Zayn deserves to be world champion. Okay, well, maybe I disagree, and I do disagree. But one thing we can't disagree on is that Sami Zayn has had one heck of a resume. Sami Zayn, multiple time Intercontinental Championships. Defeated Gunther after 600-plus days at WrestleMania when he had no business doing so. Main evented WrestleMania against the Usos with Kevin Owens. Tag team championships, United States championships. I mean, you're telling me that this guy, and I don't want to put words in my brother's mouth, but at the end of the day, nobody can say that Sami Zayn hasn't had his bite at the proverbial apple. Sami has gotten everything you could ever imagine, including a victory over Solo Sikoa for the United States Championship that made absolutely no sense. MJB says, my fear is Jimmy is getting released or letting his contract expire for some idiotic reasons. I certainly hope not. I don't see that coming, but I hear what you're saying, MJB, and I hope that's not the case. Clown says, I'll wait for their entrance if they come out together back as a tag team. If they have solo entrances, Jimmy can still have that moment. Good point. If we hear do, ooh, so if we hear that music followed by it's just me, ooh, then that means there's still just two singles guys wrestling as a tag team for a common cause. My fear, Clown, and that's a good point by you, my fear is that is not the case. And I'm going to tell you why. Back here, going into WrestleMania, when Jimmy came out to be Jay's partner, when Jay needed a partner, that was that. That was, you know what, this is Jay Uso, who has his own agenda. This is Jimmy Uso, and they're brothers, so they are having each other's back. That's what that was. To me, when you take a look at that moment and then you take a look at this moment when Jimmy comes back to help Jay and Jimmy is saying, I got you, and Jay is saying, I need you, I can't do this by myself, that to me signifies this, the reunion of the tag team. Now, here's my thing, and I admit this is a selfish thing to say. I am very happy Jay has already been World Heavyweight Champion. I think he should be in the mix again. Whether you agree with that or not, that's no problem. But see, the problem is Jay getting back together with Jimmy. By the way, I would not be mad at it because I love the Usos. But Jay and Jimmy getting back together full time, hey, Jay already has his Intercontinental title. Jay already has his World Heavyweight title. What does Jimmy have? Am I happy with going back to the Usos after not having my moment in the sun? Because think about it. Jimmy was unsuccessful in a number one contenders match against Drew in a triple threat match to get to WrestleMania. He lost to Solo Sikoa in a match for the United States Championship on Saturday night's main event. He's starting to have that same, you see what I'm saying, guys? He's starting to have that same record that Jay had when Jay was like 0-7 in title matches, whether it be United States, whether it be World Heavyweight Championships or WWE Championships against Roman. It was like, it was starting to become a trend. Now, on the bright side, if you want to look at it from a bright side, after all Jay's failures, Jay finally did get over the hump. Will that happen for Jay? Or excuse me, will that happen for Jimmy? I don't know. But I'll tell you what's not going to happen. Jimmy's not going to be wrestling for United States and Intercontinental Championships or World Heavyweight Championships in a dream scenario if he's teaming up with his brother. And we all see the rumors. People are predicting that the Usos are going to be tag team champions again. Again, not the worst thing in the world. I love them as a team. But as somebody who wants to see Jimmy get his moment just as much as Jay got his, that's not going to help the situation. So once again, as I get ready to wrap up this episode of HUBBanomics, thank you guys for being here. Make sure you share the video. Have people take a look after we go off the air. Is this guy doing the right thing? Is our love for the Usos, and I'm asking the viewers, I'm asking everybody, is our love for the Usos, and we all love the Usos, is our love for the Usos strong enough to overtake our hope that Jimmy Uso has his moment as a singles guy? Because I promise you, like Clown pointed out, if they come out and you hear for the first time in a couple years, down since day one-ish, we've been down since day one-ish. You know what that means? That means the Usos are together. And that means Jimmy Uso's aspirations of being the United States or an Intercontinental or a World Heavyweight Champion are done. At least for now, they'll be done. And I don't think that's a great thing, bro. I don't think it's a great thing to have all this time go by and to have a situation where Jimmy never has his moment in the sun. Ray with some NFL picks. Yes, the NFL is back. He says, score prediction for the season opener tonight. I'm going 34-27 Philly. I like that. Not bad. Not bad. And he also says, MJB says, I hate these companies act like we can't read between the lines. Facts, bro. But let me respond. I agree with you totally, MJB. Shout out to Ray, though. Ray was like 34-27 Philly. I'm going to say Philly is the better team. I'm going to actually say it's going to be a little bit bigger than that. I think we're talking about me. I like the number 34, but I'm going to go 34-17, Ray. So we'll talk about that another day. But yeah, man. Listen, make sure you enjoy the opener of the football season tonight, man. I know I will. Make sure you continue watching the product. I'm sure the WrestlePalooza match between the Usos and the Brawns are going to be announced probably this week. But yeah, man. Look, I'm going to end on this, guys. I absolutely love the Usos. This is their entrance from WrestleMania 39, the last day of their record-setting World Tag Team Championship reign. They are I now consider them, after years and years and years of me saying that I think the Hart Foundation are the greatest tag team of all time, I now say that the Usos are the greatest tag team ever. I will never have a true problem, a true issue with the Usos getting back together. However, just as much as I stood and created, I'm going to put myself back on camera, created the Jey Uso bandwagon, I am creating the Jimmy Uso bandwagon. Hashtag Jimmy deserves better. All I can say is we got to wait and see what happens, man. Make sure you check out me and Conrad every Monday night, 6:05 Eastern Standard Time, or for Clash of the Podcast, man. We got a lot more content coming. I got some exclusive content coming for the big fight between Canelo and Crawford. Thank you guys for being here with me on a Thursday afternoon. Please like and share the video. It helps the algorithm. I appreciate you guys greatly. God bless. Be encouraged. Evil never prevails. Until next time, you already know what it is, man. Peace.